No, I think we're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Ruth and Chris for asking us and hosting us. And what a beautiful space. Just a wonderful space to have a cozy, intimate gathering. And we're just going to let the Spirit guide the way. And Svava had a song come to mind today to open us up with, called Only Love.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful for being here and thank you for coming. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, should I just sing a song?
Sure. Yeah, no microphones. It's just
very
it's
close.
like a John Denver living room gathering.
Yeah.
Take me to the holy place, far beyond time and space. Show me what I have to face, to rest in the state of grace. I'm willing to let all go and give myself to you. On your strings I want to be, because I long to see with your eyes, oh God. Oh, and see only love with your eyes, oh God. Oh, and see only love. I walk with you all the way, hand in hand we go, in silence with no words to say to the unknown. I'm willing to let all go and give myself to you. On your strings I want to be, because I long to see with your eyes, oh God. Oh, and see only love with your eyes, oh God. Oh, and see only love. See On your strings, I want to be, because I long to see with your eyes, oh God. Oh, and see only love with your eyes, oh God. Oh, and see only love, and see only love, and see only love. Thank you.
Oh, what a wonderful way to open. Take you into the vibration of that love and gratitude. Well, we're here to have a great evening with you. Just share from our hearts and really open it up in case there's things that you're curious about or questions that you brought with you. We will be doing these sessions tonight, and then tomorrow will be pretty much an all-day movie session. The movie starts at 8, and then you can watch it here or watch it at home. And then we'll go into a live interaction after lunchtime, maybe like a 45-minute lunch. So tomorrow will be a pretty full day, starting at 8 a.m. I guess Ruth and Chris had come about, what is it, about 7:30? 7:45. Yeah.
And there'll be a lunch when be here.
During the break time, yeah. And then we'll have another session on Sunday, so it will be like a weekend, or you can choose to come at any session you want, or however you like to work it out. We would love to have you join and participate. And we have come here from our monastery, Living Miracles Monastery in Utah, so we made the trek over here and just settled in yesterday, and we're here ready and raring to go, rested and in rhythm again, our sleeping times and so forth. And yeah, what was coming to me was to just as you go deep into the openness of what the truth is, how everything comes clear, everything comes clean. You start to feel a sense of clarity, of peace, of wisdom, just carrying you through what seems to be your daily life. Although we can't promise that you'll feel like you're here, you may feel more like you're watching a movie. Just like when you would go to the theater and watch a movie, the movie's already been shot, and you're just beholding the movie and reacting to the movie with your mind based on your interpretations of what you're perceiving. It's actually, the movie is coming from your mind, not to you, like through the five senses. It's actually the movie on the movie screen is already been shot, and you're just reacting to a celluloid that's been projected onto a screen, sights and sounds, and it can seem, the reactions come from personal interpretations, wishing, hoping things were different, grieving something or rejoicing at something that seems to be happening, that seems to be very real, even though it's just celluloid shadows on the screen and sights and sounds. And what Jesus teaches us in the Course is that's what's happening in what we consider our daily life too. We're watching something, A, that's over and done, B, that can't really be changed. He says in the workbook, the script is written, He says in the rules for decision, there is no escape from what must occur. Wow, you put those two together. The script is written and there is no escape from what must occur. Like, there's not a lot of wiggle room in there. He's basically saying you're watching a movie. And he does say in lesson 158 in the workbook, we are looking back, reviewing mentally what has already gone by. So there's a third one. Looking back, reviewing mentally what has already gone by. He's doing it with a big smile on his face. He's doing it in joy because he realizes there's beyond this world, there's the happy dream, and beyond the happy dream there's heaven. There's nirvana, there's perfect light. So of course, he's enjoying the movie. Whatever's happening on the movie, he's enjoying it because it's just simply reviewing mentally what has already gone by. So, I thought tonight I would talk a little bit about decision and belief. There is one point in the Course where Jesus says, a decision is a conclusion based on everything that you believe. So we tend to think of decisions as people, as persons having decision-making ability. And he's saying, well, it's much bigger than that. A decision is conclusion based on everything that you believe. And some of those beliefs you're conscious of, and most of them you're not. They're unconscious. Like the great psychologists, have told us for decades and decades. Carl Jung, the way to escape from shadows is to look at them. And when he says look at them, he's saying look at what's been hidden. Look at what's unconscious. Jesus is telling us there's really nothing to be afraid of, but your mind is very powerful, and if you believe in something like the ego that God did not create, then you're going to scare yourself. He's still smiling, he's still laughing because he knows it's not real, but for the mind that believes certain things, Jesus says, what you believe, you make true for you. He doesn't say true in eternity, but what you believe, psychologically, you make true for you. You believe there's danger in facing a venomous snake, like a rattlesnake or something, and then you make it true for you in your awareness. You see a rattlesnake, your heart starts pounding, and you react maybe by running or taking a defensive action with the rattlesnake, because what you believe, you make true for you. Not in reality, not in eternity, but in your awareness. It doesn't do any good to try to dismiss things and say, oh, that doesn't bother me. If you believe in fear, lots of things will bother you. If you believe in danger, Jesus is very practical. He's saying, yeah, we must hide nothing from each other. We must look closely at everything that you believe. He says in the Rules for Decision, he opens it up by basically saying, decisions are continuous, yet you are not always aware when you are making them. That's a fascinating 2 sentences. You could spend the whole week looking at the practical applications of decisions are continuous, yet you are not always aware when you are making them. So what he's saying is, you're aware of some decisions, even if you looked at your day-to-day, your decisions of what to wear, or what to eat, or what highway to take to come here, and so on and so forth. And those are what we might call conscious decisions, and then there are lots of unconscious decision. And basically Jesus will define a belief is a decision that you've pushed out of awareness. So a decision that you've pushed out of awareness, you've made it unconscious, you don't want to look at it, then that's a belief. Isn't that interesting? Conscious part of the mind, unconscious, take a decision, push it out of awareness, and suddenly it's a belief. That's how we have a belief in separation from God, because that is not held in conscious awareness as you go through your day. Oh, I'm a death worshipper, another day of death worshiping. People don't wake up with that thought and go through the day. Why am I always worshiping death? but the belief has been pushed out of awareness. Hi, Sundari. Welcome. So it goes unconscious, and then there is one part where Jesus describes the unconscious as the unwatched mind. So if you can imagine, you've got this magnificent mind, and you've got a watched part that you're watching and observing as their thoughts, like stream of consciousness thoughts, and then there's an unwatched mind, which Jesus calls, he says, the world you see is the dream that you gave away, and the unconscious world that you dream about, that unconscious part of the mind, is the dream that you dream in secret. So everything that's in the unconscious mind is a secret, it's out of awareness, it's unwatched, and when people say to me questions like, oh, can I ask, why is there evil? That's actually a big question in philosophy. They call it the problem of evil. Like, where did evil come from? With all that, we've got the Beatles, we've got all these great songs, all you need is love, we're singing, we're dancing. By the way, can we ask about the problem of evil? But if the belief in error, we'll call it, which was a good way to describe evil, is the belief in error, what if that belief was pushed out of awareness and you weren't aware of it? And then you just were into philosophical speculation. How did wrongdoing happen? How did pain happen? What is the source of suffering? They're all versions of the problem of evil that philosophy's been dealing with for many, many centuries. But practically speaking, if it's pushed out of awareness, that means you're unaware of it. You can speculate all you want about the source, and even in A Course in Miracles, Jesus says in the clarification of terms, the ego will ask many questions that this Course has no answer for. How did the separation happen? To whom did the separation happen? And many more. And he says, there is no concept, basically, that you can find. There is no concept in that, there is no theology in that, but there is an experience that will come that will end your doubting. So he's clearly saying that the Course is just a tool to use for your mind, the sleeping mind, to have an experience. And that experience is the atonement or the correction or the aha, we'll call it, the big aha of, oh my God, the separation never happened. I just believed it. In heaven, in reality, there are no beliefs. Belief is totally of the realm of the sleeping mind. The ego is the belief in separation. The separation is just a belief. And even the first two Course in Miracles students on the planet, Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford, they did go dutifully, taking down the shorthand and Bill typing it out on his little typewriter, quite a few chapters before they both got up the courage to say, Jesus, could we ask one tiny little question? How did this happen in the first place? And Jesus' answer was, well, you can tell by your emotions, your human emotions like this, that you believe that it did. You see, his answer was not answering the question directly, how did it happen, but it was more focusing on, you believe that it did, and I'm here to heal your mind of that belief. Because if you have a belief in the ego, you have also an unbelief about the forgiven world, an unbelief about healing. And we need to expose that you really are believing in the death wish and you're not really embracing the correction, which has already been given. The forgiveness is the correction, but if you don't fully believe in forgiveness, then you experience the effects of the error. And when you fully believe in the solution, aha, voila, there is no error. You start to realize, oh my gosh, kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, going through the whole thing, leaving Kansas, going off to Oz, and then finally being told by Glenda the Good Witch, there's no place like home. Repeat after me. There's no place like home. And coming fully back to that. So actually, for me, spirituality is extremely practical because all we're really doing is we're praying, please God help me be fully conscious. Please help me fully see what I'm deciding on so that I may choose heaven. And Jesus says in this realm, heaven, of course, in reality, it's way beyond a decision. It's just, like Byron Katie says, loving what is. It's just what is. Love is what is. Heaven is what is. But if you are unaware of it, then now you're in the realm of guidance. You're in the realm of I need help. You're in the realm of I'm in the labyrinth. And I'm in a maze. And I don't know what way to turn in the maze. I need your help. And that's where guidance is practical. Guidance could be talked about as like helping you bring the unconscious up into awareness so you can release it to the light. You can't release something you aren't even aware of, so you need to bring it into awareness. So there are many spiritualities, psychotherapies, there are many pathways to God, and the course is just one form of the universal curriculum with a very precise mind training experience of 365 lessons to say, I'll take you by the hand. It could be a little bit of a rocky road, but just hang on with me and practice the lessons. You don't even have to believe in them. Some of them you may doubt, you may actively resist. This will not matter. Just hang in there with me and practice to the best of your ability the workbook lessons, and that's part of undoing the ego. So you might say that the deeper you go into spirituality, the more you start to become aware of the power of your mind and the power of prayer. And prayer is really your desire. We could say that this world is a projection of multiple desires, and when you have only one desire, you return to your original form of creation, which is creating in pure spirit. Spirit creates spirit, creates spirit. Just like in the Bible, all these two, begat, remember the Bible, the begat, I'm like, oh my God. But even all the begats is part of false cause and effect. It's part of the belief that there's things happening in form, like procreation, sexuality, and then there are effects of that, and then it turns into this linear timeline that can seem very real, and it also can seem to have lots of pockets of guilt, lots of situations and lots of events which seem to be the bringers of the guilt, but it's actually they're more just the projections of the guilt, because it's the mind that believes in fragmentation that's guilty. It's the mind that believes in separation from God that feels guilty. It's an ontological guilt. It's like Ken would always say, Ken Wapnick, it's ontological. It's not the guilt because you forgot to pay back the loan, or the guilt because you didn't do what you said you would do, which is a surface, like trying to pin it on something in behavior. And Jesus is saying, no, behavior is not the source of guilt. The source of guilt is in the mind. So, if I start giving some practical examples, like I was saying earlier that there's the conscious mind that you're aware of, and then the unconscious mind that there is no awareness of. And decisions are continuous, yet you do not always know when you're making them. Let's use the example of any type of sickness. When I've traveled around the world to 44 countries, I get many, many questions, but when I talk about workbook lesson 136, sickness is a defense against the truth, basically Jesus is making 2 points in that lesson. Number one, sickness is the decision, and the second one is it's a defense against the truth. That's a pretty good one to use as an example, because everyone has experienced sickness and it just doesn't feel good. It's whatever degree or gradation you have of it, sickness doesn't feel good, And so if we look at with Jesus and say, okay, it's a decision and it's a defense against the truth. Okay, I'm with you on that. The second one, I can see where suffering would be a defense against the truth. If truth is only love, then I can see where suffering would be somehow, maybe I don't understand it, but I might sentimentally agree with Jesus that suffering is a defense against the truth. Let's look at that first one though. It's a decision. Wow, that takes us away from victimization. That takes us away from you did me wrong, or the doctor made a mistake, or the nurse made a mistake, or or there was something in the atmosphere, there was a chemical, there was a virus, there was a volcanic eruption, there was something in form. If it's a decision in mind, that's a very important point. Sickness is a decision. Now, usually what I get back when I present that is people will say, well, yeah, David, who in their right mind would choose to be sick? And I say, exactly, you've got it. No one in their right mind would choose to be sick. But remember, we're dealing with a conscious, unconscious thing. So obviously, sickness must be one of those unconscious decisions, based on, I don't feel worthy, based on, I feel small or weak or frail, based on I don't feel I'm in my glory and my magnitude, and I'm in my true self as God created me. It must be, it's an unconscious decision. And of course, the solution would be to choose again, to be able to expose whatever that belief is and raise it to awareness. And the workbook is really good at doing that. I always say, if you find that you're experiencing something that's not loving, doesn't feel loving, or feels like suffering or pain, he has lessons 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm never upset for the reason I think. I'm upset because I see something that's not there. I see only the past, and my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. 5, 6, 7, 8. That will reorient the mind to, I caught a cold, or I caught a virus, or I feel I've got the sniffles during this rainy day, or whatever. It flips it around from the belief that there's an external source of the sickness to, oh yeah, I'm not really upset for the reason I think. I'm upset because I see something that's not there. I see only the past, and my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. What are those past thoughts but attack thoughts? What are those past thoughts but grievances, doubt thoughts? You see, those are the very things we want up and out. We simply do not want to hold on to these attack thoughts. In fact, if you look at the first 22 workbook lessons, it's almost like he's building in a symphony up to the crescendo, and then he comes in with workbook lesson number 23, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. He's just saying what he said 2,000 years ago in the Sermon on the Mount, judge not, lest you be judged. That's what he's saying in workbook lesson 23. And the reason he has 22 leading up to it, because he's heard people say for the last 20 centuries, could you explain the judge not part? That's what the human race is trying to digest. How exactly do I judge not and live in this world? Yeah, Jesus is saying it's going to take guidance, and you're going to have to clear your static away to hear that guidance, and that's what those first 22 lessons are. And then bingo, 23. He's just giving a recapitulation of judge not, lest you be judged. So, as you go along, you start to realize that what we would call consciousness is just filled with a lot of concepts. And Buddha said, let go of everything you think and think you know. Empty your mind. And all of the mystics and saints throughout history have really said the same thing. You have to peel the onion, some said. You have to empty your mind. And then Jesus is just giving us a very practical way of doing that. He's just saying, here's a text. The only reason I'm giving you a text is to make the workbook a little more meaningful, so when you do the lessons, you'll actually do them with more of your heart in it. You won't have that part of your mind going, right. Yeah, nothing I see means anything. Right, sure. You see, that ego part is going to deny and dismiss every bit of this Course in Miracles. It doesn't want to be gone. It wants to exist. And it will seem to exist with the power of the mind as long as the mind believes in it. So that's why it's time to unplug. Like in the Matrix, when follow the white rabbit. But before that was his friend saying, yeah, it looks like you need to unplug. And then the rest of the Matrix movie is about facing what he has to face and unplugging. So that's the context for what we're doing here. We're here to really look at, it's almost like you start to become like a Sherlock Holmes of your mind. Wait a minute, if there's unconscious beliefs, I want to be conscious about those beliefs. I don't want these unconscious beliefs dictating to me a linear world of time and space where I doubt my source, where I don't feel love at times, where I feel suffering and pain. And then Jesus goes into just super detail about what the ego seems to be and how you can step by step unwind from this belief. You open up more to this state of mind where you're just observing the movie, and then ultimately it gets quieter and quieter. You feel like singing a song that relates to any of that?
You can sing Eternal.
Oh, yeah, that's the farthest end of that.
I am limitless forever, changeless. I bask in the light that I am, shining bright, eternal soul, never born, innocent child, the Holy Son. I am divine love, a pure presence. I am bright and whole, the one creation, eternal soul, never born, infinite child, the Holy Son. I am eternal silence. I'm everywhere. I am heavenly and holy, the one self, eternal soul, never born, innocent child, pure presence, I am bright and whole. The one creation, eternal soul, never born, infinite child, the Holy Son, the Holy Son of God, eternal love, never born and never dies, forever one, eternal soul, never born, innocent child, Holy Son. I am divine love, pure presence. I am bright and whole, the one creation. I am eternal.
I think the reason everything seems so emotionally intense with regard to this world is obviously just from the belief in it. If you start to withdraw your belief from the world, you will find yourself getting happier and happier and happier. And that's something you can do. Welcome. You have a mind, and if that mind believes in something, you can raise those beliefs up. You can question them, you can doubt them, you can expose them, and you can release them. That's all within the grasp of the mind. Even the mind that's sleeping can do all that. So that this is a realm of belief, and we have the ability to question beliefs. Jesus actually says at one point, to learn this course requires willingness to question every value that you hold. Not one can be kept hidden or will obscure your learning. And your goal is to learn to reach the happy dream, the forgiven world. Your goal is to forgive, as Jesus taught. That's clearly the goal. So this is a realm of learning, and everyone who seems to come here is on the same realm. Everyone is teaching and learning all the time. No one's ahead, no one's behind. No one's advanced, no one's beginner. He said there's no one that you cannot teach because there's no one that you cannot learn from. So he's basically saying every single situation is a holy encounter for you to teach and learn what you are. And remember, we were talking about unconscious beliefs. The realm of learning is that what you perceive as an outcome or a situation is just what you believe that you are. To the extent that you believe you're separate, to the extent that you believe you're human, to the extent you believe there are others, to the extent you believe these things, then what you perceive in any situation is simply an outcome or an outpicturing of the beliefs, which of course you can change. How empowering is that? Of course it does take dedication, it does take devotion, it seems to, in the beginning, take effort, quite a lot of effort. Almost like the salmon swimming upstream, sometimes you feel like, this is a strong current, this is the Amazon River, and I'm going, what? upstream, leaping like that thing, getting all your energy for the next leap, and then the next leap, because it so seems to take energy. But then, as you progress, you start to realize, I can do this. It's God's will that I can do this. So if God wills for me to be happy, I suppose I can be. I must be open to the possibility if God's will is for perfect happiness. It's like, let's go for it, let's do it. So, what we start to realize is that before Helen even began taking down a word, she started having in 1965 visions and dreams, and some of them were in color, like involving a red ball, or different experiences. And basically, before she even took a word down, before Jesus said, "This is a Course in Miracles, please take notes," she was told that people are being called from all over because the world is worsening to an alarming extent, and people are being called from all over to accept their part in a pre-arranged plan. Pre-arranged. So you imagine if you're a human being and you start, in her case, this is a Course in Miracles, please take notes. If you're a research psychologist, that's not exactly what you want to be hearing. You don't want to be hearing voices because you spend your time prescribing medications. And a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists for people who hear voices. So that was disturbing for her, for the ego. And then prearranged. So what that's really telling us is that we think we're taking an active part, even in studying the Course, even in practicing the Course workbook lessons, even in doing what we're doing every day. We believe we're taking an active part. And Jesus assures us that it's a pre-arranged plan, that the script is written, we're reviewing mentally what has already gone by. He says this world was over long ago. And he says there is no escape from what must occur. He's big on destiny. He's big on our destiny of waking up to our true source, and he's big on destiny of the script too. You can collapse it. That's what miracles do. You can collapse it, but it doesn't mean you can change it. You can't change it because of workbook lesson number 7. I see only the past. If I see only the past, why would I put my effort in changing the past? If the past is the past and the past is gone, why would I hope to change it? But you see, this is where the human aspirations come in. We try to change the world, and he says, seek not to change the world, seek rather to change your mind about the world. Seek rather to look at the world with the Holy Spirit. You think it's linear. It's not. It's simultaneous. There's more than parallel lives. It's simultaneous. It's all happening at once, and it's all over and done. It's all happened. And that's why you have to really be willing to go all the way with this Course. He says this Course will be believed entirely or not at all. This isn't horseshoes. This isn't darts. Ooh, almost a bullseye. Okay, almost. What's our goal? Atonement. We're going. We want to hit that bullseye right there. We want to hit the bullseye because that bullseye is the joy. That bullseye is the happiness. That bullseye is the peace of mind. That's why it's so important to go. This Course will be believed entirely or not at all. Does that sound uncompromising? Yes, that sounds uncompromising. That's extremely uncompromising. But do we really want wiggle room when it comes to happiness? Do we really think we want to get away with a little bit of sadness or a little bit of pain, a little bit of suffering when all of eternity is offered us, when eternal bliss, eternal happiness is offered? Why would you settle for something less? That's the question. Why settle for less? I am worth it all. I am worthy of everything because who I was created as is everything. And the world is nothing. So as you go deeper into this, I found it was all a matter of guidance. Like, that's the Holy Spirit's use of judgment. The ego made judgment. He tells us judgment doesn't exist in heaven. It was made after the belief in separation. It's tied into consciousness. Consciousness seems to have levels. We're out in Northern California, one of the known spots of the world for spiritual awakening, one of the known spots of the world for non-duality, for raising consciousness, like in the 60s. Berkeley, come on, come on. This is Northern California. We can hear this. We can take this on. This has been going on for generations. Don't forget the 60s. Don't forget Berkeley. Don't forget. We're pretty close, aren't we, to Berkeley? We're pretty close. Indeed, we are. Svava's from Iceland. She's like, what's Berkeley? Where is it? Where's Berkeley? You keep mentioning Berkeley. I want to go on a field trip tomorrow to Berkeley. After the movie, please take me to Berkeley. And so, of course, we can do this. We can do this. This is San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area. We can do this. Now, to do it, we have to be able to open our mind to all kinds of witnesses. For example, it was actually at the turn of the century, if you go back to the early 1900s, when a fellow by the name of Albert Einstein, who was pretty bright, like another guy from England, Shakespeare, Einstein was pretty bright as far as human beings go, and he was basically saying, time is not an absolute. Humans talk about time as if a second is a second is a second. And 1 second in China is the same as 1 second in Russia, in the United States, in England, in Japan. He said, no, it's not. It's not. That's just a common sense belief, and it's not. And then, of course, physics and quantum physics have shown that time is connected to space, and that's why Einstein used to call it time-space. He invented a new word, time-space, because he knew that there was no time apart from space, and there was no space apart from time. And then also he got into gravity, and he saw, wow, time-space and gravity. You could call it time-space gravity, because depending on the relative proportions of time, space, and gravity, you have very different perceptions of time, very different perceptions of space. If you don't believe it, some of you probably in this area have taken LSD or psychedelics, and you're nodding. You're going, that's what I experienced that firsthand, David. What Einstein was talking about, I'm there. I was in that state where I could see how interconnected it was. But basically, there was a scientist, Brian Greene, who basically, he mapped out the entire cosmos. I mean, the entire cosmos, starting with the Big Bang, very bright explosion, and then he mapped it out, and it was a loaf of bread. So essentially, when we're talking about the cosmos, it's a photograph of a loaf of bread. And he will, so you can, it depends on where you are in that loaf of bread. Like we can say, this particular slice looks like we're in Lafayette, also where Sundari lives, Lafayette, and we're looking around, it's 2002, and Northern California, and so on and so forth. And that's just a little point in that loaf of bread, that static loaf of bread. It's done. It's baked. He's got a photograph of it, and then you put a little dot in there, and you go, here's where you believe you are in the bread. And here's the Big Bang, and this loaf of bread goes on for a while. It's a pretty long loaf of bread. It's like an Italian loaf. Okay, let's be honest. And then he's saying, what you believe you are is you just believe you're a coordinate inside that loaf of bread. But the loaf of bread is like a photograph. So wow, that's turning our whole perception of organic life and growing, expanding. Wait a minute, I'm just a little coordinate inside a loaf of bread? You aren't really, but the body, the personality self is. It's predetermined, it's destined. All the people you were going to meet in this seeming lifetime are in that loaf of bread with you. All the places you were going to travel. And Sundari's traveled to a lot of them. Believe me, I know. But they're all in that loaf of bread. You see, there's none of them outside of that loaf of bread. And so it's all there. And that's why Jesus says the script is written. That's why he says there's no escape from what must occur. Now, one time, Ken Wapnick was asked, what does A Course in Miracles say about life on other planets? And Ken's reply was, the Course says there's no life on this planet. Now that's pure metaphysics. Now that's pure Course in Miracles metaphysics, with humor added. Because once we start to realize that it's a mind issue, that my mind is sleeping and dreaming of this loaf of bread, calling it galaxies and cosmos, time-space cosmos, but that at different points inside that loaf of bread, depending on black holes and gravity and many of those kind of conditions, it can be, it's always relative. That's why no two people see the same world. That's why there's interpersonal relationship conflicts, because the points are in the loaf of bread and they think they're living, breathing, organic, life-giving, little beings. But they aren't. So how do we go beyond that? And that's where you come to the question. Also Einstein, he was very good with saying that the idea of past, present, and future it's an illusion. It's an illusion. Past, present, and future is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. So he's giving a little nod to the ego. It's an illusion, but it's a persistent one. In A Course in Miracles, Jesus says, the ego tries to force continuity onto past, present, and future. Force! You hear the word that Jesus uses? Force continuity. He's saying they don't have continuity. Because why? Because the ego invented this past, present, future construct and is trying to force continuity. And that's why human beings experience so much tension in this journey, because there's something underneath, unconsciously trying to force continuity. He says the past is gone, the future is but imagined. These concerns are but defenses against present change of focus, which is really saying present change of alignment to align with the Holy Spirit. If you align with the Holy Spirit in the present moment, your problems effectively are gone. Now. I mean, period. That's not a maybe, coulda, woulda, shoulda, I hope, potentially? No. What about Deepak Chopra? No, pure potentiality. No, Jesus is going, pure potentiality is going to actuality. Abraham Maslow, self-actualization. Self-realization, Yogananda might say, or, it's an actual fact. And the way to go to the present moment is by desiring it. You have to, as the movie I'll show tomorrow, which will be good, this will take place starting in the 60s, 1965. We're back to Berkeley, 1965. Let's go for it. This is going. Yeah, San Francisco's even in this movie. This area is, but you can see. You can wake up by focusing your full attention on the present moment. And you know that's going to take faith and trust, because you know how the ego is conditioned the mind to lament the past, regret the past, analyze the past, believe it has to fix the past, fix something that's gone. Gone for good. Is Jesus sentimental? No. The past is gone. It's over and gone. Actually, it's gone. It's not sentimental at all. And the future, he tells us in Workbook Lesson 133, he tells us a healed mind is relieved of the belief that it must plan. And if there are plans to be made, you will be told of one who knows you're good. Isn't that lovely? Yes. Isn't that incentive to listen to the Holy Spirit? You mean I never have to make another plan and I will be told practically speaking, if there's something I'm to do, buy an airplane ticket to go to Oakland. You will be told. You will be told. You see how gentle that is. All I have to do is listen because I will be told. I don't have to worry about the future. I don't have to plan and make all kinds of defenses against what may happen, hypothetically, because this is a plan to collapse hypotheticals. Hypotheticals are what if. What if there is a future? That's a pretty scary idea. And what if I have to figure out a way to release the past? And Jesus is like, it's gone. Gone. Gone means gone. Gone is gone. You don't have to be concerned. You don't have to put your mind into it. So, in my experience, that's how it went, because after 10 years of full-time university, what am I putting my faith in if I'm not putting my faith in my 10 years of university and everything I learned from my parents, my minister, my friends, family, cousins? If I'm not putting my faith in what was learned, then I have to have something to actually put my faith in. That's the leap of trust that is being asked for in A Course in Miracles. It's saying you have all the answers inside of you. Jesus says you have many answers you have received but have not heard. They've all landed like arrival. They've all arrived. They're all packed into the holy instant. And they're all there, but you haven't heard them because of the fear and the resistance and the belief that you have to solve the riddle on your own. That you personally have to solve the riddle of time-space. That you personally have to solve the riddle of death. What a burden to think. I mean, any philosopher would say, oh please, is there a way out of that? And Jesus says, you don't need a way out because it's been done. It's been done for you. If you want to think of Jesus as a Messiah or a Savior, it's not what he seemed to do on the cross, but what was done in the mind. Resurrection is in the mind. The resurrection was accepted, and it is a done deal. So it's not about trying to redo or reinvent or recreate something. It's just, it truly comes down to acceptance. And the only way you come to acceptance is when you raise the dark unconscious beliefs up to the surface. You can't consciously choose heaven if you unconsciously believe something that is the denial of heaven, you see? So it has to be like every day is devoted to miracles to bring things up. Was it Svava? We watched a new documentary series, so well done on psychedelics. Mm-hmm. And the first one was on LSD, so I just hit tears watching it. I was watching these psychotherapists use LSD to help people with PSTD and all these traumatic things. Wow, that was spectacular. He kept saying, Svava, look how gentle the therapist is. The therapists are so kind and sweet and gentle as they work with somebody as they're using LSD. Then the second one was on magic mushrooms. Again, I was like, wow, I'm going to do this on a Saturday. I'm going to take a Course in Miracles and psychedelics, and we're going in there. Northern California was right. That's right. Don't call them the hippie generation. There's something going on in there that they felt intuitively, and now it's all coming out. But I'm going to do it with Course in Miracles metaphysics. I said, I should contact some of these amazing therapists, and if they don't already know, say, here's some metaphysics that could even help, that could even speed it up faster. You don't have to wait years, decades for the healing. You can go through the healing much more rapidly if you're willing to take it in, take it fully in, take the healing in. What was the third one on?
There was...
Mescaline was the last one.
Mescaline was the last one, but it was...
Ecstasy.
Ecstasy. Oh, the love drug. Oh my gosh. I was like, look at the healing. There was the one guy who was like the expert on ecstasy for decades. When it became illegal, then he spent his got a PhD and learned how to deal with the FDA. That's right. And he said in the thing, he was saying, I hope by 2022 we'll have it completely legalized. But I kept saying to Svava as we're watching this, I said, look at the guy's face. Have you ever seen such love? His face was just beaming love. I mean, Mother Teresa's, yes, but she's got all the wrinkles. But this guy who's been taking ecstasy for decades, he was like, even in congressional hearings, he was like, just radiating. It was like, wow, he's full of love. You can tell it. It's so obvious. It's on his face. And to me, that was just another example of the Holy Spirit's use of what the ego made. It's the purpose. Just like they say with shamans, you have to have a good shaman if you're going to do ayahuasca. It's something that has to be carefully guided. It's the purpose behind that's always the most important thing. It's not the thing in and of itself. It's the purpose. So I feel like that's what we're onto. We all are sharing blessings with each other. We're all sharing the blessings of what we've learned, what we've gone through, what's worked with each other to help us get more in tune with the miracle, which is coming from our mind. It's literally giving us a new way to look at the world. And like with Svava, she received, over about 120 songs from internal listening. I remember there'd be different times where you'd say, I better sing this or say something into the phone, the recorder or something, because it'll be gone.
Yeah, I would wake up in the middle of the night with a song in my mind, and I had to record it. Otherwise, sometimes I wouldn't, and then it was gone in the morning when I woke up.
Yeah.
Are these your songs that you've...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
There's
beautiful.
120 of them, and that.
I made 3 albums. I was guided to learn to make music on the computer, so it's very ethereal. Yeah.
She learned even to mix and master, which I said, but people can go to university and schooling for years to learn mixing and mastering, but it's like download packages. Oh, let's see, distribution. Download, But that's a good example, and I think that's a good example of how you can really realistically see yourself living your life, is just every day in a prayerful state, taking down what it is you're to offer to the world, bit by bit, piece by piece, prayerfully, steadfastly, just doing that. It comes through in music. Even on my way out here, before I left Utah, I had a call with a group of friends, and one of my friends was a music professor and kind of a musical genius, and he said, we were on a call about technology, and he said they've invented a new technology now where you can all practice and sing simultaneously on the internet, on YouTube, without any interferences or delays or distortions. So that was one step. Then when I was staying at the hotel before I flew here, I got up in the middle of the night, and a 42-year-old man, I think from Argentina, had written, and he was the director of a photography school, but he got into the course, he started listening to my audios or watching videos, and then he went one day to a keyboard and closed his eyes, and like 6 or 7 albums of music came through by closing his eyes at a keyboard, and he just channeled album after album after album. And then it was all in Spanish, so I translated right back, and then he wrote back again in the morning saying, now there's beautiful oceans and beautiful mountains and the things of this world that used to capture my attention, but they're fading fast. I just feel like I'm watching a lot of your videos every day, and I'm clearing all the anxieties in my mind, because once he became a conduit to let all this music come through, it like unlocked a lot of unconscious darkness, anxieties, fears that came up. Svava went through that very much as well, very intensely. And here's this man who's just wanting to connect. It was all in Spanish, but I had a beautiful exchange with him. And another exchange with the woman today who's she's a musician, very trained, she wants to collaborate. But more than that, she just wants to be used. Everybody's wanting to connect, to collaborate. I don't want to do it alone. I don't want to write all these beautiful metaphysical songs and then I go to restaurants and bars and people are just eating. They aren't even listening to the lyrics. Well, it's all for you, It's to let it come through and get up there and sing it. But I really want to collaborate. I want to collaborate with people that appreciate that are wanting to say, great, let me hear that again, or how did you receive this? Get into the joy of it. And that, to me, is the joy of our function. When we collaborate, when we really feel like we're just here to join and connect and be used together, then it goes much smoother, it goes much easier. I think my whole life has been one of collaborations, because traveling around the world and meeting these people and going to stay with people, like coming here with Ruth and Chris, this is just a little snapshot of what it's been like for me for the last 3 decades. Not so much staying in the Hilton and Marriott and this and that, but staying with people, really getting to connect, really getting to share a meal, to really talk about what's going on, what's important. It just takes you more and more into that experience of connection, and that's what we want. We just want connection. So and we don't know what's coming next, but Svava's been feeling some big changes coming. Maybe you can share.
What?
Tell everyone what big changes come.
I don't know.
You've been getting
Just
numbers.
the-
555.
Yeah.
But David, then we came from different places. I was so lost. I came here because I'm stubborn, but then at the end, Ruth helped me. It just happened that I was hopping around with the car. And then finally I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to the hotel because I'm not going to find no retreat. And then I said, God, now it's on you. You want me to come? You better do something, because I did all that I could. And I stopped the car and I was going to hunt for the hotel. Ruth called. Like when you're starting to write, it's like what? She called me and she gave me direction. It was a blessing. Then based on that, on our everyday living, that I can see here, I know I'm not alone. And I love that. I am among friends. And seeing like us, like in the planet Earth, it's like the challenge to be free, the challenge to not like fear and drama and war and assassination, whatever, you name it, death, right? Yes. But how can we use more our A Course in Miracle to bring that, it's like only moments like when you're talking, I can see so easy, that's a joke. And then after I go through my life and then I get lost on the traffic, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like so. But then how to make my life to improve or to change the reality of our planet Earth, because I know it's another reality. This thing is gone. What we live now, I know, it's gone. There is no heavens nor hell. This is going to change. We are going to be one. But how to do that every day when you work, when you're with people, when you're trying to make a diet and the diet doesn't work and you like to eat junk food. Make sense?
There's some nodding heads around here.
But my point is not
go girl, you tell it. Bring those examples.
It's not making a drama, but it's know that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's nice to not feel alone. Because for the last 2 years, I'm feeling so alone. But I didn't give up on the book. I listened to the book all the time. but it's like, oh my God, there is more people besides you on the TV, right? That I already watched, but it's like there is people like me, and I wonder, is there more in the planet Earth like us? Because we are here in this journey together, and that's what I want to get at. Let's do something, not only us, but us,
Yeah.
to change for us.
Yeah, it's a powerful experience just coming here and you feel like, oh, I'm among friends. It's safe to
It's safe.
to go deeper. And it's the same thing that people who go to a 12-step meeting, they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone here. Or to go to any kind of support group. And then online, that was the thing early on. Jesus was saying, he said, I want you to share this and share it freely, widely around the world, and I want you to share it on the internet. And at first, I was like, internet? I didn't even use cell phone, email. And this shows you how far back this goes. I'm like, email? You really want me to get into email? He's like, yes. And cell phone, and then periodically all the inventions that came with the internet. I would say, what's a YouTube? What is a YouTube? And he would say, go look it up,
Yes.
YouTube. And how do you spell it? Y-O-U-T-U-B. So, but it was like, little by little, Jesus was saying, here, please use what I'm giving you, because you will soon find that it's all user-friendly as you let the Holy Spirit in you use it. Where at first it was like, wait a minute, I just want to go out on the mountain and, sing and chant and do, and he's like, no, this is, I'm giving it to you. And so little by little we start to expand, we start to follow those nudges, those guidances, and we start to feel things can happen. Like with Svava, the music, so much has come, and it started with just a little bit of willingness, because she didn't play the guitar, so she went to YouTube to learn, see how Jesus works. YouTube. So she learned to play the guitar there. When she was young, when she was just a child, she did many things. She played in Iceland, played keyboard because her parents wanted her to, until they said like we could enter this competition, and she was so turned off by the competitive ideas that she stopped completely. And then, 4 decades later almost, Jesus reactivated her keyboard skills. Imagine 4 decades later, let's switch that on again. And then all these programs, what was it called?
Logic Pro.
Logic Pro. All these instruments were at her fingertips through the keyboard that she had 4 decades ago. You see how that's how the Spirit just activates and uses what the ego made for channeling everything you do, whether it's jogging, whether it's baking, whether it's working in this job or cleaning teeth and all those things. It's the same thing. Everything starts to get channeled. And it continues to be channeled until there's something else to come. Like we have a friend in Colorado who was a dentist for many, many years, and then she just sold her whole practice. And now her and her husband taught yoga for many, many years, and he just, okay, let's just wrap it up. And then they've gone to a quiet lake up in Minnesota, and they're just awaiting instructions. You see, it's really exciting. They just hang with it, go through it fully, extending, and then when the time comes to let it go, then they do. They do let it go. That's the way it's gone for me with eating, because I'm kind of pretty much on a liquid diet now. But it has not been my path. I mean, with all these travels to 44 countries, I did, like Jesus, a lot of my teaching at the dinner table. You know, when I go to visit people, we would just have beautiful sharings. Visited Judy Sketch with Sundari a lot of times, or driving us over there to Judy and Tam and Bob and all of our dear friends, and we would sit around this big, beautiful, famous Course in Miracles table that was used for all the things, you know, taking how to publish the Course, you know, all these decisions that were made at the same table. But then Judy passed away, and she's just passed things on, first to Bob and Tam, and then Bob passed away. So it's all part of a prearranged plan. But the most important thing is to feel the joy in extending your part in the plan. That's the most important part, because that's what will last forever. The form will pass away, but the joy won't. We just get happier, 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 more joyful as we come closer to heaven in remembrance. Or we could say, letting go of the past and the future. Those are our distractions. But, I remember in the Manual for Teachers in the Clarification of Terms, when I first read, he said, the mind is described as if it has two parts. And he put as if in italics. And when I saw that, I went, oh, the two parts of the mind, the right mind and the wrong mind, that's a hypothetical too. But he's just using it to try to clarify our decision making, so we learn to join with the right mind and let go of the wrong mind. And then I thought, wait a minute, though, this whole world is an as if. This whole cosmos is an as if the separation happened. So he's teaching us that the ego is hypothetical thinking, and then the thoughts of God, which are pure thoughts that come from our source, are in our mind as well. So we can either spin in the hypotheticals, which is what karma is about. You can either spin in hypotheticals and seem to have all these consequences based on these erroneous attack thoughts. It's a spin. Or you can stop and go prior to the spin. Before Abraham was, he said in the Bible, I am. Before time was, I am. Before the cosmos was, I am. The I am presence is not squeezed in between the past and the future, and the present moment is before time was. You see how he says in the Course, time goes backwards, not forwards. I was just watching a beautiful segment from Brian Greene again, this beautiful science teacher. And I love science and I love quantum physics, and he was showing the loaf of bread and everything, and he showed the Big Bang for the explosion and then the loaf and everything. And then he was saying that in physics terms you should be able to go backwards as well as forwards. We know from Jesus you can't actually go back in time or forward because they don't exist. How can you go somewhere if it doesn't even exist? But what he was saying was that this process of what's it called? Entropy. Entropy, everything in time and space, everything in the loaf of bread is moving towards destruction, and then the arrow of time seems to just move in one direction. And they used to postulate back in the early days that maybe the Big Bang, everything would reach a point of equilibrium and then collapse, but not in this one. He was saying, no, the future, the arrow of time is nothing but accelerated entropy. That's what the arrow of time is, accelerated entropy. And, whoa, Brian, if it's accelerated entropy, then what's the solution? Of course, it must be the holy instant. It must be the moment that's before the arrow. If you've got to go back before the archer, before the Big Bang, it must be where the pristine, that's where we need to aim for. We need to aim for the present moment, which all the mystics and saints have talked about. Because I was like, accelerated entropy. But entropy is things move to destruction. So accelerated things moving to destruction. I'm like, if that doesn't take you out of planning, I don't know. That I have a degree in urban planning. I actually have a 5-year degree in urban planning. And now Jesus is like, oh no, that was not what that was for. Because he's like lighting things up with, no, don't plan for the future. And he says, let present trust direct the way. You can see he's putting strong reliance on present trust. So for me, that's been the joy of the journey, is what I call listen, follow. even in the communities that kind of sprung up, I was just happily going about my business in this little house in Cincinnati, and then suddenly people started moving on the same street where I lived. This wasn't an ashram, this was just people renting and buying houses on the same street, Station Avenue, and then coming over for chats. This was more like Socratic dialogue at the kitchen table. Let's have a cup of coffee, have a tea, let's join at the kitchen table. And then things continued on, but my journey was one of listen, follow. I wanted, that's really the answer, is we have to become intuitive. We have to allow ourselves to be 100% intuitive and 0% analytic. I was in engineering for a year, I was in urban planning for 5 years. I went through a lot of analysis. In fact, when I was in high school, they started to recruit me. My mother was a teacher in junior high, but not for me, but she was in the high school. But they started to recruit me and saying, your son has a great analytical mind. He would be good as an engineer. So that was my first year of university. Everybody pointed me. But I had to go from the analytical to the intuitive. And after 10 years of university, the course came, and that was my pathway. Helen Schuckman one time said, at last a pathway to God for intellectuals. Wow. And yet, before she died, she also said, I know the course is true, I just don't believe it. Oh! At last for intellectuals, I know it's true, but I just don't believe it. Oh. So you can see Jesus saying, you'll believe this course entirely or not at all. It requires belief. It requires looking if we have any areas of unbelief where we say, even when you say, I get that intellectually, but, Jesus is like, don't but me. You don't get it. If you get this intellectually but, then you don't but me. Come and look at what is the but? What is the exception you want to make to the truth? What is you still are holding on to, denying that the truth is true? The simplest lesson of all, the truth is true and only the truth is true. So we're with you. And I've had many different gatherings, even in Colombia. Dennis, I was down there with Colombia one time, and before the gathering, Kirsten was like, I've got a really, really sore tooth. I said, great, Jesus is practical. So in the middle of the gathering, I said, Kirsten has a sore tooth. Are there any dentists in the audience? Three dentists. There you go, Kirsten. Take your pick which one you want. And that's happened more than once. Different things like that. You see how it's just even if you have a need, then share your need. You don't have to be embarrassed. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to feel awkward about it. Because we're just living a simple life, and we're down in Colombia. It's like, how are we going to handle this? It's that practical. Just say it. Just put it out there and say it with the faith and trust that Jesus will handle it. That's different than, the way we go, let's look on the internet and, try to figure it out personally. It just can be very simple if we're direct.
I think it's okay to read the book mathematically. Mathematically, and also like a researcher, right? And even if you believe, I don't think I want to mix too much the emotional with the practical. It's there. I need to eliminate my ego. I need to be aware of this ego that's supposed to be the enemy, right? And let my mind come and be connected to the Holy Spirit, like when she called me. I just made the thing. It's on you now, God. Ring.
Yeah.
It blew my mind off. I said, oh my God, it's really you, right? And then it's like, okay, let me follow. And I said, no, I come back tomorrow. She said, no, I'm going to guide you street by street.
Yeah.
And I just let it go. It's like, just go. I'm going to be here with you. And it's like, oh my God.
That's a perfect example, because you were right at that point of ready to turn back to the hotel, and then at that point, Ruth calls, I'm going to guide you, and then you made it.
Yeah, and I tried to get rid of her like 2 I said, I don't want to bother, that is the darn
That sounds like mafia. I tried to get rid of her, but she insisted on instructing me how to get there.
Yeah, I said, okay, I made it. I said, maybe I'll show tomorrow. Maybe I'll meditate in the room, right? I thought, and then, but I let it go, you know, and I am confused between this ego that I am the good, I know this part, right? But also I'm discovering there is the ego that likes the hate and then watch hate movies, you know, war movies and terror movies. And I know there is this part of us that if we are not in love, then we are in fear. And at that moment that I decide to quit, it's like...
Yeah. Well, I think the key word is practical. Like, I remember I first was guided to the Course in 1986, and if I had to say one word to describe my experiences with Jesus from 1986 until 2022, it would be practical. Jesus is very practical. He's friendly, he's humorous, he laughs a lot, and he's extremely practical. Meaning that when I embarked on this journey, I had been trying for 10 years to come to what my career would be. My parents were very interested in knowing what my career would be after 10 years. Long before that, they were interested in knowing what it would be. But I got to the point where after those 10 years, I came out here to California, to La Jolla. I went to a humanistic psychology conference with Virginia Satir and Francis Vaughan and Roger Walsh and lots of... Carl Rogers. It was Carl Rogers' last conference that he spoke at before he passed away. And I felt so much love there. And then I was presented with the Course in Miracles, down where the people sell their books and tapes and DVDs. And then just like a tsunami wave of love went over me when I picked up the book. I was like, what is this? It's got to be more than the salt breeze blowing off the Pacific Ocean. Maybe not. No, it's got to be. This is so huge. It's coming from Cincinnati, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Salt breeze. It's no small thing coming off the Pacific Ocean, but still, wow. And then I had the feeling like your life will never be the same. You're going off in a whole new trajectory. That this would be, whatever I thought my future would be, it would involve this. And I could feel in instance, it was like that was washing over me. Very surprising, startling. Not what I expected from Southern California. I was like, oh my God. And then the practicality started. You see? First I used the book as kind of an oracle. Just pray, eyes closed, open, getting answers that way. And then, little by little, the nudges, the prompts, those inner feelings, or could be different for people. The hair stands up on your arm or something, and or you get chills on your spine with certain things. It comes in many ways. Signs, symbols. That gets it going. And then the more you go with it, that intuitive, those nudges, those little prompts, then it grows stronger and stronger. And then it wasn't long. I think it was probably about maybe 5 years or so where it was. I had this inner dictation, like inner instructions, like Helen was receiving. Felt like a little bird on my shoulder. Go here, call so and so. Very practical. Those are practical things. Call so and so. Go here, go there. Those are very specific instructions. It's not like, the bird's not like, all is love, God is love. I'm with you always, even to the end of time. Those, as Christians, you heard, I'm with you always, even to the end of time. We heard that in the sermon a lot. But no, this bird was there. Turn left. I said left. Your other left. It's just like in the Matrix. Your other left. When Neo's trying to find his way out. Oh no, your other left. But that's it, and it just started happening. And then that's where the practicality comes in, the guidance. So really, the whole Course in Miracles is just to put you in touch with your internal teacher. And then when you get in touch with your internal teacher, then the book has served its purpose. It's not to be like turned into a scholarly thing, or to a career, or to whatever, you know. You can use it as, if you've got the old 3-volume books, you can use it as a doorstop. It's like this high, it's a good plant stand. But until you make contact in such a direct way, then the Course is just a tool of words that the Holy Spirit is using to direct your mind, to help clear the mind. So that's really the main answer. It's just extremely practical. It's not pie in the sky. It's very, very practical.
And sometimes I repeat because I listen to the audiobook. It's like 8 minutes that takes 3 hours. 8 little minutes. What did he say again? Oh, I see it. What did he say again? It's like, it's exhausting because my mind doesn't just sit and, absorb. But when you absorb, it's like, wow.
Do you like music?
I like music if it's not those rap ones.
Well, we've got this community that has worked with me all these years. It's called Living Miracles Studio, but it's just very glorious music. Svava and Eric and Ricky and Kirsten and Sundari was out at our music festival 3 times. What was it called? Strawberry Fields Forever. Strawberry Fields Forever Music and Enlightenment Festival. But if you like music, there's so much there. I mean, there's even a SoundCloud website I've got where I've uploaded 2 of Svava's albums, like professionally recorded albums that are on there. You sang one song tonight already, the first song. Was it Divine Essence?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. If you like movies, you love movies. Well, tomorrow we're going to have a
English as second language.
Yeah,
That's the
I put English subtitles and Spanish subtitles on.
Okay, that's good.
So, and they're very practical and they're very deep, and there's lots of them on the internet. They're just filling up the internet now, because I don't know how long I've been doing this current series. Is it
For at least 2 years.
2 years, every Saturday, every Wednesday or Saturday. So it's every Saturday. But if you tune in tomorrow from home, or you come here, you can actually go through the experience of. I'll set the movie up. I'll give all the commentary for the deep insights as we go through the movie, and then there's breakout rooms for those around the world. But we'll continue on with our own live after lunch. We'll be back in here doing those Q&As because people's emotions come up during the movies, and Jesus always gives me a really good movie for a set of themes that people vote on. So people vote on 4 different platforms, and then I pray, get the movie, and then I go. So it's very practical. It's like you can really feel Jesus with us. Sometimes I'll be there. Oh, Jesus is here with us. Oh, Albert Einstein, and here I'm doing a quantum movie and pulling in Einstein left and right through the movie. Oh, he's really here with us now. He's really contributing. Or different ones. We did one on the secret tapes of Marilyn Monroe. I thought, what a great one for exposing all the things around sexuality and fame and lots of self-concept things. So what was the one we did with Albert Einstein? Sundari is asking, it was something.
There was I'll Follow You Down.
I'll Follow You Down.
Yeah.
Was I did one, I'll Follow You Down, because in the movie the actor Rufus Sewell plays the husband who disappears and goes through a wormhole to go back to Princeton when Einstein was there, because he wants to meet Einstein. And the trauma for his wife, the trauma for his son, is he just completely disappears without a trace of their life. All the abandonment, rejection issues. And then, because it was the whole plot was going back to meet Einstein, then I just started bringing in all these Einstein quotes and all these quotes from Jesus and making a symphony of that, all quantum and Einstein and Jesus all together. So these are kind of mind-blowing experiences because we all just come together with a strong purpose. But these are some examples of ways that you can spice up your course practice. If it's dry, Jesus is like, oh no, we don't want dry. Let's throw the music in and let's throw the movies. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
About something that it's been forming as you've been speaking. It's kind of like layers of a question where you talked about the, this awareness, right? And then the guidance. So I'm kind of bringing these things together. But what I've noticed, because I see a lot of clients, what I notice is that sometimes the unconscious, the unseen emotions that are there, then unconsciously interfere with the guidance. And then there's almost like a delusion that is termed as guidance occurring. But there's an absolute unwillingness to see that or address that. What is the kind of the direct route of getting past that occurring? And I understand the layers of the onion, but is there a way that is... It's almost like they don't want to do the onion because there's pain in there.
Yeah.
Is there a string that can be pulled, or like a direct awareness? Because you talk about your experience, and my experience too was pretty just boom. There wasn't a lot of resistance, right? It's like, okay, do this, okay. But a lot of others, maybe with like deeper trauma, more pain, there's like a deeper fear, and it's not only is it not as accessible, but there's a delusion occurring.
Yeah. It reminds me of this series that I just watched on the psychedelics, because one woman who came on there and just bared her soul, she talked about that when she was a child, she had been raped. She talked about her PSTD came not from a military experience or a war experience, but she lived in New Orleans when Katrina hit, and her PSTD started right there, not with a military experience, but with her house just being flooded and everything around her, it was just shocking, almost just a shocking thing to wake up to. And then she did start to go, you remember if it was the magic mushrooms or maybe it was the ecstasy or something. But I think it was the ecstasy. She started working with a therapist, and with the ecstasy, she just felt some kind of lifting up or lifting out through use of the ecstasy. And then the therapist was right there. And she started to go back to childhood traumas and childhood experience she had had before Katrina, before the rape even, to going to her mother's house and going there and opening the door, and her mother was sitting in a chair. She had shot herself and the blood was coming there, and she discovered her mother. And then she walked back, and there were two more that she had shot before she shot herself, but she couldn't go in the door. So it was so buried in the unconscious that she, through the use of the therapist and the ecstasy, was going, and she was able to face and look closely at her mother and everything, and then she was able to walk over to the door. She had completely pushed that out of her awareness for many years. She was able to open the door and see what she saw. And that's what we mean by the unwatched mind. It's not only the belief in separation, but all the memories and all the decisions and all that are all there. And that was an example of how with people, even when they start to grasp metaphysics, then they still have to trust and follow the guidance. Because if they have too much resistance to the guidance and they just make up a delusional guidance or make up an alternate guidance,
Yeah.
it won't work. It will just be a delay maneuver, is what it is. But I always felt like that was what, for me, the blessing was first through music, because I listened to such a wide range of music, and then, woof, all these emotions. I would never know what emotions would get triggered from certain music pieces. And then going to the movies with Jesus, he would instruct me which movies to see. I would just pray in the theater or ask for help or go to the car if the theater was closed, and then pray and ask. So it is a reinterpretation process, but when you come back to the idea that it's one mind, that it just every day presents so many forgiveness opportunities. Even when you're there to be helpful with the clients, you're truly showing up to be truly helpful. But we can't go through the healing for anyone else. We can't do more than go through the healing and experience in our mind, and then accept the reflections that come from that healing that comes. But that's part of letting go of the personal. Even as personal helpers or conduits, we have to just start to just say everything's working in the best possible way. Everything's maximal. All growth is maximal, because it can get heartbreaking when you're working with people and you're really looking for a breakthrough, looking for an outcome, looking for a practice of guidance that was given. I know there have been times when people have asked me for guidance, and I will offer it if I'm asked for it, but then I have to let go after I give the guidance. I can't be concerned at all whether they use the guidance or not. It's almost like, well, that's my part, is the giving, is the extending of it. And even the giving and extending is for my mind. All that I give is given to myself. Coming more into that, that's how I'm being freed up from these unconscious darkness through the gifts, through the giving. And that's why, as miracle workers, that's what we're to do, is to give the gifts away. He says, open up the storehouse of your mind where they are laid, and give them away. So for me, that's important, because that's the motive that takes us back to heaven, is the giving. The getting part is the ego saying, what's in it for me? And that's the problem.
Did you see the HBO, maybe on Netflix, Wild Wild Country?
Yes.
Yeah, because that was a fascinating. People started off with this sort of love-centric, idyllic, community they were going to create, and then these
Not in Northern
egos.
California.
Osho.
Yeah, Osho in Oregon.
Oregon,
What was
yes.
the woman's name who went crazy in that thing? She was the Indian woman?
Sheila.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's hard
Some
to
other
forget
people
Sheila.
have seen it.
That was,
We can't forget
that
Sheila.
was so well done.
Delusion.
Yeah, I had a group of people in the community down there, and I said, I'm not going to do a public gathering on this series. It's too much it's inviting too much controversy, and Jesus has told me in the Course, don't go for controversy. But I said, with a small group, I said, I will go through Wild Wild Country with you all and do a commentary. So that was kind of for them, for your ears only. I said, I'm not going out there and trying to, because, I'm always just following the guidance. I mean, there was one time a friend was wanting to leave the community and do much more work with psychedelics and help speeding people up and everything. And I said, well, we're using the symbol of a church, and psychedelics and church, those symbols don't go so well together. So I said, oh, good. And she said, well, if you have any tips, so within the span of a week, I found a shaman who was into A Course in Miracles and psychedelics. And put her in contact. There you go with my blessing. Then Svava and I came. I said, we'll actually come out. We won't be part of the ceremony. We'll come out and I'll do a healing talk right before the medicines and so forth, and we'll go out. So we went there. I gave the talk and everything. Next up, Sundari takes me up to Judy, and we're sitting around the table having our soup. And I'm just having my soup, and Judy speaks first. Judy says, David, tell us, what does A Course in Miracles have to do with toad?
Toad.
I have no idea. But it's just so beautiful because, everything, it comes down to the purpose. So I think the Wild Wild Country was a great teaching device for discernment, and how the ego will try to make idols, and the power can come in and control, and Sheila,
Oh my
she
God,
really,
Sheila went wild.
she really acted that out in a full way.
The lawyer was here in San Francisco like a year ago, and I went and heard him speak just because I was curious.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Sundari.
David, could I ask a question not on the tape?
Sure.
Okay. So I've been wanting to ask this for the last number of years. It's like my big question. So I think what preceded all this was I finally aligned with wanting peace more than anything. So that was like just a template that happened. But all the rest of what happened is just so aligned with your talk tonight. So I'm good at creating, and the events of the last 2-3 years have proved to me beyond any doubt whatsoever the illusory nature of the world. And so there's been this huge expansion in my life. New York Times saying I almost won the Nobel Prize in international journals and blah, 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 blah. And at the same time of the expansion, it looks like the ferocity of my ego is manifesting in my life in terms of crazy, ridiculous, unbelievable, abusive things coming towards me, and betrayals, and like going in Mancini mattresses, 2 hours to pick out a mattress, going up and asking the guy a question about the mattress, and him saying, "You're a rude person. You've been rude ever since you got here. We don't want your business. Get out of the store or we'll call the police." And then I go to the Starbucks and they say, "We'll never make this drink for you again." And then another time I go in a gas station and the guy says, "You're on your cell phone pumping gas. I'm going to take down your license and call the police." And staying with somebody, a teacher in the Course in Miracles, and just getting, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." A neighbor going, "Fuck you, fuck you, die, die." And then filing a harassment suit against me. Just as bizarre as the other side. So here I am manifesting greatness, and at the same time this abusiveness coming towards. And I can see where it's from in my childhood. But I've worked through the forgiveness issues to the point where I'm no longer in the memories. But it seems that somatically in my body I have this template, and it feels so ripe. It feels like so ripe to release. And just a bit ago, I talked to a woman who did sessions and was able to detach emotionally from the stories. And, it's like looking at the attention of my mind and what do I want to water? Seeing myself as I latch on to these abuses, and a family member who disinvited me from a wedding, and, everything. But there's still this flow going on, and I seem to be cutting off from abusive people, that rather than trying to tell them anything or trying to share my side of the perception, because I don't think they would be receptive to it. And that's almost counter to all the expression sessions and altar sessions I've done in the community. So there's this friction of denying my voice, as I did as a child, but thinking it's useless, and sort of being it's not like I'm not basically happy, because I am. And yet this is just manifesting, feeling like it's just ripe for release. And so I'd be interested in what you might have to say.
Yeah.
But the level of both sides of it is just like, the world is not real, the world is not real. I mean, and yet I'm a real good manifester.
Yeah. I think it's once you go through that, and it's extremely intense, and you seem to have witnesses of manifestation, but also it's like going to a horror show. It's like going to one of these haunted houses. You go through a week and you think, this is more scary than the haunted house, and I didn't pay for this. How is this happening? Well, Jesus along with the Course in Miracles, he dictated the psychotherapy pamphlet and the Song of Prayer. And now it's all integrated together. But the Song of Prayer, Jesus is asked, how does one pray for one's enemies? Imagine asking a question like that of Jesus. How does one pray for one's enemies? Because in experience, it can seem, when this is happening and this phase is so intense, it seems like a pretty good question. And Jesus says, if you believe you have enemies, you have great need for prayer indeed. So you see how he words it, if you believe you have enemies. Because there is a part pretty late, I think it's around the Beyond Our Idols section, it's pretty late in the text, where Jesus says the role of the accuser will appear in many forms, and it will seem to be accusing you. So I'm like, well, okay, let's see where you're going to finish this sentence. The role of the accuser will appear in many forms, will seem to be accusing you, but have no fear, it will go at last. From the Master, have no fear. Isn't that hopeful? Isn't that? I read that because I was going through phases where I was just like, why do I have to bear the darkness in so many forms? Like thinking, am I doing something wrong here? And he's like, have no fear, it will go at last. That one sentence was like a lifesaver. Like you're out in the ocean bobbing, and then Jesus throws out a life preserver with a rope saying, hop in, hold on here, I'm pulling you in. Because again, it's the unconscious. That's what makes it so shocking. It's just the unconscious coming up for release. Mm-hmm. And remember, the unconscious we talked about at the beginning. It's the unwatched mind. It's out of awareness. Mm-hmm. It's what he calls the dream you dream in secret. That's why it's so shocking. And people will sometimes say, well, what about the tyrants of the world? Or what about Hitler and what about Mussolini and Osama bin Laden and all these? But what Jesus is saying, well, your prayer is to let the darkness come up so you can bring the darkness to the light, and then it will disappear. Don't ask for the light to come into the darkness, because it doesn't work that way. It only works by bringing the darkness to the light, which is kind of, in the Bible it says, perfect love casts out fear. But you could add on there, if you bring the fear to the light, which is the key. Because if you're trying to bring the light into the darkness, then this is what religions have been doing for centuries. I invoke the light, I call into the light. Please heal this person, please heal that person. Even invoking the light to heal a relative or a parent or a child, you have to really start to take a look at what does that mean if I'm supposed to bring the darkness to the light. And Jesus says, well, I'll tell you very specifically, don't ask the Holy Spirit to heal the body. Ask the Holy Spirit to heal your perception of the body. Wow, if it's the perception of the body that needs healing, then it's back to the filter. What filter am I looking through? Am I looking through my darkness filter, my unconscious guilt filter of sickness and death, of enemies, of attacks, of abuse, of mistreatment? If I'm looking through that filter, it's all one filter. It's the wrong mind. It's the darkness. Yeah.
I have a question. I have a complex business that I have, and there's always complex problems to be solved. And I've been working with Brittany over the last year, kind of easing my way in the Course in Miracles. And you completed today, right?
Yeah, I finished the book today.
So, I see a therapist to kind of help me work through all of the angst of issues and problems, and, it might be a lawsuit here and there might be something there, and it's just always something that feels like there's sirens going on, and you've got to solve this problem, but then once you whack that mole down, the next mole pops into the next mole. And so, I finally...
You're speaking for business owners across the world.
Yeah. So I finally asked for guidance. I have been, and it just came to me like this bolt of lightning. Your work is your work. And I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean that are there times, like if you had decided to be an engineer and you had a boss and he's saying, David, you need to get this thing engineered better, and you need to do that, and you're like trying to go home and relax and doing your Course in Miracles work, but you got people calling you going, how come, when are you going to have this ready for me? It's like, do you sometimes need to extricate yourself from your work, or can your work be your work? Can you live in a universe where maybe Sandir was talking about, where you're being bombarded with these things, and yes, she can go to her sacred space and do the work you just talked about, which is beautiful, but is there a point or time where you go, maybe your work isn't your work? And that was confusing for me to get that guidance, but not really know how to manage the duality of this thing that seems to have all these tentacles and this other space that's so heavenly and quiet and beautiful. And are they allowed to be mixed together, and how do they mix together?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, because when you're talking about the work, I think of Byron Katie and the work and the mental process of turning it around, because that's what Jesus is doing with the Course in Miracles. He's saying, your darkened mind, your sleeping mind has got this false sense of cause and effect, and then you see it projected out in the world, and that's where all these tentacles are, the causes and effects, and trying to interpose in there, and okay, I put out that little forest fire, and then, there's another one over there, quick, get the hose, and you're just bonking all the things and shooting them down and everything, and it's very exhausting. So with the Course, what Jesus is saying is he's really taking us to a point of mind training where we go deeper and deeper, where we learn to actually pray, not just the prayers of, watch Aunt Edna on the trip so she's safe, and please, I bless the food on my table, and when we're kids we repetitive prayers sometimes in this and that. He's saying, no, you have a very powerful mind, and everything you perceive is coming from your mind, from your consciousness. So you're actually you can be at the empowerment point of release, or you can be at the mercy of continuing to believe in the past and this dark belief system of error. So what really helped me was when there was one point in the Course where Jesus said, do not raise body thoughts to the level of mind. Interesting line. Do not raise body thoughts to the level of mind. He said, when you raise body thoughts to the level of mind, you give them causation, and that's where you feel guilt. Like, for example, a business owner and employees and clients and all these things. When you raise body thoughts, those are all body thoughts, to the level of mind, you take personal responsibility for those thoughts, and then you feel guilt. Because this personal identity is the false identity. The Christ is the real identity. The persona is the mask. So it works with everything. Like people will say, you mean if I really just keep praying, and I really want peace, and I really just hold that torch out in front, I want peace of mind, I want happiness, I want joy, and I set my day, that's what I say I want from my day, that if I make no decisions by myself, he says in Rules for Decision at the end of the book, make no decisions by yourself. If I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. So he's taking us into guidance, and he's unwinding us out of the self-concept of what we believe we are. A business owner, or a construction worker, or a sexual lover, or whatever we believe we are, where we have guilt, because we're not. It's almost like the Pinocchio story. Pinocchio, was Geppetto, the puppet maker, and then there's the marionette Pinocchio, and then the wish from Pinocchio is to be a real boy. Cut the strings. Real boy, an autonomous real boy, you see. And that's a symbol for all of us, because when he does, he doesn't listen to his conscience, Jiminy Cricket. he wants to go to Pleasure Island, and when he goes to Pleasure Island, and Jesus teaches that in the Course, pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin. So he's going to Pain Island, really, but he thinks he's going to Pleasure Island, and then horror of horrors, half boy, half donkey, We know how it goes in the story. It's not good. It's this crazy duality. Donkey and noses growing beyond, we think we have a nose problem, a wart or something. No, this is a big problem for a little boy. So basically that is telling us that we just need to be under guidance. So it's the Holy Spirit starts where you believe you are. It's like, Steve, you believe you're a business owner here. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to reach you with the guidance right for those business decisions, right for those things where it seems like a complicated mess. I'm going to give you guidance. And then as things seem to open up, you start to feel more relaxed, less tense, less stress. You start to feel, wow, this guidance stuff is really working. It's not designed to make you a better business owner. It's designed to unwind the mind from the concept. And some people can say, well, that's a pretty common one, a business owner, but it can be around parental things. Like when I met Svava, she felt this strong. First, you signed up to come to a 5-day retreat with me in Holland, and then the fear arose, and she sent an email canceling the trip. But later on, we at that conference and other conferences, we met the man who was the organizer, and she's like, "Did you ever get that email?" He said, "Oh, I got it."
But I didn't feel to answer.
I didn't feel to answer it. And I was like, Jesus intercepted the email, and then she, with great faith, and took steps to come there, and all kinds of things happened. She got there in the middle of the night and had to go knock on a door in the middle of the night in Holland, and it just was, all these miracles happened. But there was one point where she was actually starting feeling guided to travel with me, and she had 2 15-year-old sons. Now this, like for you as a business owner, you can say, well, there's a lot of parameters I'm operating in here, but for Svava, with 2 15-year-old sons. And then maybe you can tell the story of what happened, because you got a pretty strong symbol from Jesus about this, and you really needed it, and it came for you.
Yeah, I could feel so strongly that this was my calling, that I had to follow this. And I was like, okay, Jesus, you have to show me, and it has to be so clear, so obvious, so there's no doubt in my mind that I will go for this. And the evening when I had this prayer, I was blowing up candles in my living room, and one of the candles slipped out of my hand, and the wax went over a photo of me and my sons, and it just deleted me out of the photo.
Wow.
And then I heard in my mind, how does this feel? And this like overwhelming feeling of inclusion of love, like it was so overwhelming, and I felt in my heart that, like, job well done. It was complete, and I felt so much love for them, but it was in a different way. It was so pure and beautiful, like this expectations and all that. It was just like gone out of my mind. And then I said, well, how you have to help me to tell my boys this, that I'm gonna follow this. And a few days later we were having dinner, and then I just started speaking and sharing from my heart, and their reflection was, Mom, you gotta go. You always told us to follow our heart, and now it's time for you to go and follow your heart. Yeah. So, and everything got so beautifully arranged, like it was unbelievable. I had 2 cats too, and my parents said, we'll take your cats, and yeah, it was amazing. And my son's living with my ex. Well, they are grown up now. Yeah,
but at
they
the
were.
time, the ex-partner
took
had
over.
wanted the custody of the children, and so you can see how everything has to be orchestrated. I do remember with Judy Scutch Whitson, who we visited quite a few times. I would say, tell me the story of your marriage to Whit, and she told me the direct experience of this, where she was married to Bob Scutch, and she was living with Bob here in the Bay Area and everything, and then this message came from this speechwriter for President of the United States with a Southern accent. He was like saying, Judy, you got to come to Washington, D.C. She's telling me the whole story with the accent. You got to meet, he's like a ex-military man, and this, and she's like, I don't want to meet a military man, and I'm not going all the way. I just was to Washington, I'm not going back and everything. Well, he studies A Course in Miracles. So she goes to Washington, she meets Whit, they talk, they spend time together and everything like this, and then finally they're just sitting at a hotel on a couch out in one of the hallways and just talking, and then Whit says, I think we should pray at this point and ask Jesus what the purpose of our relationship is. She said, that's a very good thing to do. Let's pray. Because her husband's back in the Bay Area, she's with this retired military guy who studies the Course. She's like, so let's pray. So they pray, and then she's like, what did you hear? And he says, I heard our relationship is everything. She said, everything? What kind of guy? You heard everything. Yes, we're going to be friends, lifelong this, and this, married, all these kind of things. And Judy was like, that is everything. Because he said like about eight things. So then she's telling me, as I'm having dinner with her, she said, so I thought, okay, nice meeting you. So she flies back, she comes back, she gets back at home. Her husband Bob is like, how did it go? He's so curious. I want to meet this guy. Oh, I want to meet a guy. We should invite him out here. Oh, just like that. And so he said, no, really, invite him out. Please, I want to meet him. So finally she said, okay, I'll invite him. So here comes Whit. He comes out. Now it's Judy, Bob, and Whit. Two's company, 3 in a marriage is a crowd. It's a problem. So he comes out, she's there, and they're talking, and it's like, she said, Whit and Bob hit it off like long lost brothers who just found each other. I hardly got to talk to Whit because Bob and Whit were talking all the time, talking the Course, talking everything, excited. So she watches this, a few days go by, she's very concerned. This is the worst nightmare scenario. I don't think that's a good idea to invite him. No, please. So then she's doing the dishes one day, the window's open, the screen door's open, she's doing the dishes, and the 2 guys are right outside below her talking sports teams, sports scores. She's doing the dishes, listening over, eavesdropping the whole thing, listening, and then in the middle of the sports talk it stopped, and then her husband Bob said, Whit, what is your intention with Judy? And she's doing the dishes, and then Whit says, my intention is to marry her. And then they went back, Judy said, to talking sports. Without interruption, they just went there. And she was just, what is going on here? And then, so when Whit finally leaves, she goes to Bob, her husband, and she said, what is going on? I was doing the dishes. I overheard what you were talking about, and then I overheard that. And Bob was like, of course, that's Whit. When I was practicing the Course, here's Bob, who's worked with prisoners and everything, he started taking journals, and like the original two did, and writing into journals, channeling Jesus. And he had filled journals just like Helen and Bill. And so when she said, what is going on? He said, this is Whit. He said, I showed you this before. It's in my journals. And she said, in your stupid journals? What do you mean? You think you're a Jesus channel? You know, this. He said, no, it's in there. He says, I'll go get it. And so he goes, he gets the journals, and he brings them out, and he opens up to the part. He says, here, right here. I've already showed you this. When William, his official name, Whit was the nickname, when William appears, let Judy go to William. Oh my God. Jesus orchestrates careers with parents and children. In this case, this was a switching around. This was wild, wild country inside of A Course in Miracles. But Jesus, and then the three of them worked together through translations and all the things. Jesus, this is a prearranged plan, and he's got it all planned. And for him, even something the world would say is sacred as a marriage, for him it's just characters as part of a prearranged plan for the benefit of the whole universe, to wake everybody up. And the three of them worked, and yeah, we went over there. Siddhartha was with us a lot of times before Whit passed away, and he was there a lot, and just an amazing man. And he had worked in like ambassador, UN ambassador to China, and had all these public service roles before. I mean, when we learned some of his parables and stories, we were just in tears, because being sent over, he had a whim to see Mao Zedong, Chairman Mao. He got over there right when Mao died, and then him and a group of the American delegation got sent to Mongolia, I think, and left out on the streets. These distinguished Americans just left on the streets and he was diagnosed with cancer. And then he was telling us the story about how he was on the streets of Mongolia, and he was just praying to Jesus, going, Jesus. He had no food, he was on the streets, very distinguished American, huge distinguished public servant for years. This is good for Sundari, letting go of the self-concept, Whit's on the streets of Mongolia, and he's praying there, and all he could say was, thank you, Jesus, you've given me so much in my life. I just feel so grateful for everything in my life, as he's on the streets of Mongolia. And then he added at the tail end of the thank you prayer, and if there's anything else I could ever do for you, I'm your man. And then Jesus got him out of Mongolia, married Judy, and did all these years of decades of working in support of the Course. After he said, if there's anything I can do for you, Jesus, I'm your man. So it just shows, it says Jesus orchestrates time and space, but it's all for the healing. And it's not what seems like big problems, can be like these tentacles, and like, this is the craziest game, how can I continue on? It actually can go to heights of happiness, where you're used in the most extraordinary, amazing ways, just by tuning into your intuition and doing the one thing that you can really do is tune in and listen and follow, and not worry about how is it going to work out. You can really take a prayer. You just say, here, Jesus, I'm giving you my business. You know how it is. Here, I'm giving it to you. I want to be happy. And I know you won't rip anything away from me, and I know you'll orchestrate this for my good and for the good of everyone. And that's what I loved about our visits with Judy, because she also had such a full lifetime of miracles. She told us at every sitting we had with her, she told us so many miracles of things that had happened with the original four, and with her daughter Tamara, and with Bob, and it was so rich, just rich, full of miracles. Heartwarming miracles, the kind that you just feel like you're sailing out the door after you give a hug and kiss goodbye. So it's good news.
Can I share something on all of that? Because I've had some crazy experiences with people reacting, or also things getting crazy. What I've noticed is when it starts to heighten, like you're talking about, the unwinding, it gets really crazy or intense right before it's going to get really good. That makes sense. Almost like you're peaking and the ego's going, no, no, no. And so the chaos ensues because your energy is shifting. And so it's mirroring back. But if you just step into it and go, oh, okay, we're just accelerating, then it becomes like a game. Like you're in the game, like, what is the movie, The Nines?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, I can just play with the game. Okay, what is my next step? And so you're not immersed in the chaos, but you're using it as a symbol to, ooh, we're coming off the peak of this wave, let's ride it. Okay, where's the way to go? It took me a while to kind of get that. Because people would be, reacting or melting down. Because it's coming into, like, your field of energy is changing, your consciousness is changing, and everything around you is mirroring that. And if it's another human, it's, maybe they have something to let go of, as you've let go of so much. So they're just going to show that back to you of how much you've already let go of.
Yeah.
So you can remember it, and then it's done.
Yeah.
So they're just little signposts.
Yeah. It's like we have, as long as we believe that there's means and end, and the means come before the end, then we have fear. But even Abraham Maslow, who studied all the self-actualizing people, he said, no, for them, means and ends are together. So in this moment, we are given the means and the end. And the stress of the world, like, for example, with a business owner like Steve is we believe that we're personally responsible for the means. And sometimes the end we choose involves profit or involves expansion and growth instead of peace. Really what we want is present peace. And it's beautiful to think that we have the means and the end in this moment for the peace and achieving the peace and experiencing it. So it's like Jesus is giving us the whole package, like he's giving us the whole download and say, here it is, when you're ready, open my package, you're going to be happily surprised at what's inside, because the Holy Spirit is the means. And the Holy Spirit is with us right now. And the end, the peace, is available too, always right now. Even though we may try to put it off into the future and say, when I do this much or achieve or get my nest egg or my retirement, there's all these stories we tell ourselves about retirement. Well, it's going to get easier. I'll be stress-free once I retire, and then when people get to retirement, what is this? Why can't I be peaceful? I just retired. Like magically, we're going to follow the ego's strategy, and then when we magically get there, surprise, surprise, the ego is like, oh, I'll give you a few more things to be stressed about now. Medical things and, all kinds of grandchildren and just anything at all. We'll try to take it away, but we're onto it now. We're ready to ride that wave. Just get to the top of it and then get the big surfboard out.
Surf it.
Just ride the wave. Jesus, you're underneath me. Yeah.
And David, how much of what happens to us in our work or in the events that happen to her or on her with her client or me lost to come here, how much is it our responsibility or our, not being aware? We are in La La Land and you say, oh, how could you be offended by me when I am here and then you come to slash me all over the place? How much is this our own responsibility for us to not, I listen to some of the tape there and says, don't ever be a victim. Don't be a victim. Then I'm very aware, I'm a dentist and business owner too, like, people trying to take advantage and whatever. And then it's like, don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. Comes that words in my brain. And then it's like, okay, I caused this, Then how can we equilibrate? Because my main point of reading the book is to be enlightenment is wonderful. But, when we die, we all want to be enlightened anyway. I have the experience with the mushroom. And then I saw. And what I saw was wonderful. And then to read was a shaman who gave me the book. She said, you need to read this book. And that was A Course in Miracles. And it took like maybe 3 months for me to open it. I said, oh, too big. Right? But then I went to the tapes, but I saw with that experience with that shaman, it's like, oh my God, there is more than everything. Now I know. My daughter went, her boyfriend went, we went on the same day with this lady shaman, right? Then I read the book in another dimension now. And I know how much is my responsibility to create not only my reality, but the reality of everybody. As I put things out, things will come. Or if I put, there is only enemies. People are here to get me. Like all of you are like my enemies. Like people are here to get me or something.
Yes,
there
perception.
is this suspiciousness for
With
some reason they're not my friends. What is it?
It's the interpretation. We do have our choice of interpretation. We're either lined up with the source and God, or we're lined up with the ego.
Crazy,
it's just,
right?
There's nothing in between. It's one or the other.
But how do you use the Course in Miracles to go vertical? Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's one sentence that helped me the best out of the whole thing when I was asking that question. And the one sentence from Jesus was, you are not responsible for the error. You are responsible for accepting the correction of the error. That one sentence, that's it. That's everything right there. Because he's saying, you only have one responsibility, and that's to accept the atonement, which he calls the correction. And he says it twice. The teacher of God, one responsibility, accept the atonement. Miracle worker, one responsibility, accept the atonement. The atonement is the correction. So while the ego will try to say, it's your fault, blame you for this, do this, and all this, that's just the tempter, that's the false voice in the mind, the ego, trying to promote guilt.
Plus other people that came to her, and they come to me, because it is, because of this. Oh my God, I don't need that food. Step back,
Because we are either drawing forth witnesses to the miracle, or we're drawing forth witnesses to attack. And remember, I was saying in lesson 23 is I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. So I always say that the first thing that people have to do, no matter how many years you work with the Course, the one thing you first must accept, just like in 12 steps, they say you have to admit that you have a problem before you can heal. With the Course, you have to admit that you have a perceptual problem. You don't have a business problem. You don't have a relationship problem. You don't have a finance problem. You see, just a perception problem. So now you think we're all here. This is a big 12-step meeting. And what's your name?
Lillian.
Lillian. Oh, that's my grandmother's name, Lillian. What you start off with is, hi, I'm Lillian, and I have a perceptual problem. Because that's the admission that you need before you can be sent on the way to the correction. You just like an alcoholic. If the alcoholic goes there because everybody else says they have to go and they're forced to go, they're not interested. Why are you here? Because I was forced to come. You know, that's not a good start for the 12 steps. That's actually the worst start you could have. But with course groups, you could say, I'm here, my name is Lillian, and I have a perceptual problem. Meaning, I'm seeing a distorted world. And I want to admit, because as soon as I admit to that, then I can ask for help. But if I don't admit to that, if I say, I already know how the world is, and I'm right, then Jesus has to wait. You know, the Holy Spirit is like, okay, you're convinced, your mind is closed on the subject, and you think you know best about the world, then I have to wait. But as soon as you make that statement, I have a perceptual problem, and I want to be shown a way to heal that, then you're on your way zooming. Zoom's a big word now. Zooming toward the light, you see? So that's it. That's the simple. It's always very simple, but we just need to hear it. Yeah, that's it. No matter what the people are saying, no matter what they're saying.
Yes, it's me. It's me. It comes back to me. I am the responsible on that. I have a perceptual problem. I know I have a perceptual problem. Unbelievable. I never thought about that, but now I know.
I'm going to end the retreat, the session tonight with a little line from a James Taylor song. Anybody remember James Taylor? Yes. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out better if you only will. There it is. It's a song. It's in our hearts. It's there for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you can join the movie tomorrow, it's going to be an amazing movie that Jesus.
I want to point out there's a movie.
What movie is it?
There's a movie screen behind you, brother. That radiant painting. Except
You're going to be in here, in this room.
Yeah.
You'll be in this room. Probably back the TV back there, and the chairs will be turned around.
What movie is it?
It's the story of the man who, at 70 years old, came and founded Hare Krishna. He comes at 70 years old. He leaves India, takes a freighter with his friends and people telling him he's crazy, old man, you're going to die, and hops on a freighter and comes into one of the worst winters in New York City from India, where he never had experienced snow, and it's inches and inches. And then his giving heart is huge. He's a great demonstration of the principles, yeah. Because there are many pathways to God. This one is Krishna, the blue man. You know, that's so. But it's just the demonstration we go for. Who's showing us? Who's demonstrating an open heart, a giving heart, in prayer? So if you can, whether from home or come here tomorrow, yeah, it's going to be quite a show. Then we have a breakout room, and here we'll just take a time for a lunch, maybe 45 minutes. I think Bruce said to break, bathroom, have some lunch, and then we'll go into expressing feelings that came up or questions that came up, and yeah, we'll just dive into it. So if you can do that, that would be great.
Thank you.
So thank you all.
Thank
for
you.
coming.
What is Sunday?
And Sunday's the last session. What is the date?
11 to 2.
11 to 2. 3 hours.
Okay, so like today.
I just came up
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
You can come to anything that works.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll stream it tomorrow. Not
Yeah.
a morning person.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty early because we do it globally, so it's different time zones.
Yeah. Oh, that was so great.